Welcome aboard TED Talks Cruises, the podcast where wanderlust meets wisdom. Join our two hosts on a cruising adventure full of laughter, learning, and luxury. Ken Conan is a cruise rookie. He's wide-eyed, full of questions, and maybe still figuring out which end is aft. Ted Blank is a seasoned cruise expert who's been there, done that, and he even has a preferred deck chair. Each week, Ted and Ken dive into the world of cruising, from picking the right itinerary to insider tips, their personal insights, and behind-the-scenes secrets. Whether you're planning your first cruise or you're a platinum tier cruiser looking for fresh perspectives, TED Talks Cruises brings relatable stories, helpful advice, and plenty of good vibes. So get ready to laugh, learn, and set sail. No passport required.
Hey, it's Ken Conan with Mr. Ted Blank, our expert. He is our expert with TED Talks Cruises today. And today we have a special subject that is world cruise. I feel like we need like world
we need
cruises.
like one of those theme songs, all around the world or something like that.
Yeah. I wish I knew it. I'd sing it for you real quick.
It's okay.
I'm very
no singing on the podcast. Not allowed. Not
no,
allowed.
Ken,
Cut that off. Cutting room floor.
Well, tell us. So when we talk about world cruises, I think of like, I don't know, partially going around the globe. Is there such a thing where you like go all the way around the globe?
Well, it's interesting because in the last month or so, I can go a long period of time and not talk to people about world cruising. Like I think about it all the time. Like a cruise around the world is at the very top of my bucket list. But I can go a long period of time without talking to somebody about one. And then the last month or two, I've had several people, start the process of thinking about going on a world cruise. And it's it's not a snap decision. It's not like, I'm going to go on the 7-day Caribbean cruise or something like that. It's a very, very involved decision.
Yeah.
But so a world cruise is literally a cruise that goes around the world.
Wow.
Yep, and they've been doing world cruises for almost 100 years. Believe it or not.
Really?
Excuse me.
I would
and
not
back
have
in the
guessed
day, back in the day, they started kind of in the Depression when there were too many ocean liners and not enough passengers. And so they thought, well, let's try something new. And so Cunard was actually the first cruise line to do a world cruise. Around the world in 80 days was the book by Jules Verne as well. But world cruises generally start and end in the same place, and you go all the way around the world.
Wow.
And now there are some variations to it now, and the itineraries can be a little bit different. And, there's been a little bit of word slip. So sometimes they'll call something a world cruise, and it isn't quite a traditional world cruise. But, I would say the way we would define it is a cruise that's 3 or more months long that touches on several continents.
Yeah.
And so there are a surprising number of world cruises out there, and there are a surprising number of people who are curious about the idea, and there are way more people who are skeptical about the idea of a world cruise. So maybe we'll kind of address both the curious and the skeptical today.
You can put me in the camp of skeptical. I feel like, I don't know, like I almost feel overwhelmed by like the thought of, and this is just me personally, but 100%. I feel like overwhelmed, like, wow, that's a long time.
Where do you even start to think about
where do you put your head?
Yeah.
What space do you need to be in?
So I'm going to start kind of the way I think about it. And I had a really nice conversation with a client, and it was interesting because she mirrored exactly the way I was kind of thinking about it. And I think this is the way I would think about it. None of us have unlimited time on this earth.
Yep.
We will leave this earth with many things undone. Right? That's just part of life.
That's
part
life,
of the human the human story. And for some people, myself included, we have too many things on our bucket list to check off in the time we have, however much time that might be. I think probably almost everybody does. And so a world cruise is probably the most efficient way to see the most sites in the most comfort, and to take as many of those things off the list as is really humanly possible.
Yeah.
And especially when you start to think about some of those more distant places, maybe South America, maybe the Pacific Islands like Tahiti, Fiji, Australia, New Zealand, Asia, Japan, India, Africa, the Middle East, places that maybe are quite, they're a long, think about it. If we put those 5 places on a list and said we're going to go there, we've probably planned out about 10 years worth of travel.
Right.
And we're going to do it all in one fell swoop.
Wow.
And so I think that's a really good way to think about it. Now it helps if you enjoy cruising.
Yeah.
I would say certainly.
Yeah.
If you don't enjoy cruising, probably not a good fit for you. Let's just, put that on the table. Rent a private jet or do something else like that. But if you enjoy cruising, if you enjoy the comfort and the confidence and the ease, there really is no better way to cover that much territory than by ship. And the itineraries of world cruises, I mean, my goodness, it's literally a catalog of, the greatest hits of the world, plus a lot of places you're like, oh, I had no idea I could even go there. And so it's a very right, very what's the logical brain? Is it the left or the right? I never remember.
I think it's left.
Left brain. So
Left
very
for
logical
logic, I
left
think,
brain. This is a very efficient way to do this. And from the right brain perspective, very comfortable way to do it. Very civilized way to do it. Traveling with like-minded people. All those things that make for a great trip, combine them together and stretch it out a little longer.
I love it. When you were just saying like you need to be comfortable cruising. I think that's a great point. And I think to myself, maybe I haven't tested my comfortability. I don't even know if it's a word. I don't know if I'm comfortable yet, where I feel like I'd need to do like a transatlantic crossing. And then I could tell you, yes, check, I'm comfortable. Because to be honest,
world cruises have different itineraries, and some will have more days at sea than others.
Okay.
But there definitely will be days at seas because you are going for fairly long distance. I would look at it a little bit differently.
Tell me.
And I kind of have a sort of a rule of cruising life. Maybe I should write a book,
like
the
this.
10 rules of cruising life.
The 10 commandments.
Once you hit about 10 days on a cruise ship and you go beyond 10 days, you'll know whether you enjoy cruising or not.
Okay.
Because once you hit that 10-day mark, it's not just a quick vacation where I'm trying to do a lot of vacationing in those 10 days. I'm now living a little bit of my life on board this ship. And your whole perspective on everything on board the ship, the whole experience changes. Because it's not just this tiny little flash in the pan of, magic for 7 days.
For sure.
Well, now I have to do things. Like I am going to have to check my email. I probably need to go for a walk every day so that I can, fit in my pants when I try to go to dinner. I probably can't have a 10-course dinner every night.
Yeah.
I might not want to go to every show. I might just say, you know what, tonight's an evening. I'm just going to enjoy dinner, have a glass of wine, go to bed.
Yeah.
I might order room service. You start to use sort of that.
I love this.
All the aspects of the ship, but it becomes part of your life, and you start to get a routine in it. And whether you're in port or you're at sea, you maybe tend to have 2 routine days. But it's very interesting because your whole mindset just starts to change.
I love this.
And it's maybe it's the mindset between staying in a hotel and living in your house. Right. You stay in a hotel for a couple nights and somebody makes your bed every day. You got a pool and you got free breakfast and all that good stuff at a hotel. But at home, you just live your life a little bit differently. And so it's the same on a cruise. Somebody does still make your bed twice a day. So, very civilized way to do it. And, you have to think about things like laundry.
Right.
And, keeping in touch with home and paying bills. And so there's just a mindset shift in terms of the way you experience the cruise and enjoy the day.
Yeah.
If you're traveling with your spouse or your significant other, you might start to do things the way you do them at home, which is you do a lot of things together, but maybe you do some things on your own. Maybe one likes to go and play the trivia contest. The other would rather go to the gym or sit in the pool or, have a glass of wine. And so it just becomes more of a life. And so the way you live your life on a daily basis, except on a cruise ship.
Yeah.
So
that's really, you have,
but I think you got to get past 10 days
yeah.
on a cruise to try it. And I remember the first time I took a cruise that was longer than 7 days. And I kind of had that same, how's this going to go?
Right.
And, you know, pretty quickly after that, you know, once you've, and it is 10 days. You don't even have to do 2 weeks. For me, it's 10 days.
Okay.
Once you've done that, then 10, 20, 30, 40. It's just all the same thing.
Yeah.
All the same thing. It's just more of the same magic.
Interesting.
You know, but it's different. It's different than an action-packed 7-day trip.
Yeah, I think you're just as usual. You're spot on. Like I remember we went to Alaska on the cruise, and it was just
7 days now is too
nonstop.
short.
Right.
I'm kind of like, I don't even want to bother with 7 days because I barely get my suitcase unpacked. And now it's like, oh my God, now I got to go back.
Right.
And most of us, if we're working, that's a consideration, right? We don't have unlimited time away from the office. But when you're retired, you do.
Right.
And think about a little bit how you live, if you are retired, and some of the transitions that have happened in your life from having to get up a certain time to wanting to get up at a certain time, and
Right.
having the freedom and the flexibility to do things on your own schedule for the most part, but things are scheduled. I mean, most of the retired people I know, if I want to have lunch with them, we have to get our calendars out, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's harder for them to find time than it is for me.
Right.
But you do have the time to do something like this for 3 months to 6 months.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. Talk us through like the different spots where you start. Maybe you want to talk a highlight reel of where you would visit, maybe how we would navigate the world. I mean, you're our expert. I'm like,
well, this is a hard
all
one because we
ears
could
here.
do that. We could
Yeah.
do that. We could talk for an hour about it. I think most world cruises will start probably in Florida,
Okay.
maybe New York, maybe in Florida. Some will start in Europe, cross the ocean to North America, and they tend to almost all head to the west.
Okay.
So it's very rare to see one that leaves from somewhere in Europe or somewhere in the United States and heads to the east. But there are a few. But most of them will head to the west. And so you might go around the tip of South America. You might go through the Panama Canal.
Yeah.
You probably head across through the Pacific Islands. Most of them stop in Hawaii, Tahiti, Fiji. But there are a lot of other islands there too.
Right.
So even if you've been to some of those places, you're going to go places you guaranteed were not
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
Down to Australia, New Zealand, up to Southeast Asia. Some will actually go up to Japan. Some maybe will go as far as like Hong Kong or Thailand, Cambodia, southern China, India, Sri Lanka. Then they might go around Africa, around the tip of Africa, South Africa, a chance to do a safari and come up the west coast of Africa. Others might go through the Suez Canal into the Mediterranean, touch at Europe, depending on the itinerary, and then come back to the United States.
Wow.
Now, increasingly, there are more of them that focus just on the Pacific.
Oh.
So they might start in Florida, head across through the Panama Canal, and spend 2-3 months on a very slow circuit around the Pacific. And actually, they'll end by sailing through Alaska and ending like in Seattle or Vancouver or Los Angeles or someplace in California.
Huh.
So in the old days, those used to be kind of called a Circle Pacific cruise,
Okay.
but now they kind of fit into the world cruise category. And then there are actually some that go the complete other way around the world. So you
Swimming
can
upstream.
actually go up to Duluth, Minnesota, not too far from
Oh my
us,
gosh.
and take a longitudinal world cruise that heads south all the way to Antarctica.
Oh my gosh.
Now, it doesn't go back the other way,
Yeah.
but I think it's about 70 days from Duluth to Antarctica.
Wow.
Yeah. So imagine that. Duluth isn't quite the North Pole, but it's pretty close.
It's up there.
What did Mark Twain say? The coldest winter I ever had was a summer in Duluth. And so you'll start there. You go through the Great Lakes along the eastern seaboard, through the Caribbean, Panama Canal, coast of South America, do a full Antarctic cruise, and you end in southern Chile.
Wow.
So that's you really can kind of go anywhere. Many world cruises can also be divided up into what are called segments.
Yeah. Didn't you do
And
one of
so
these?
I've done. I'll actually be doing my second one in January of next year.
No way. Coming up.
And so, so a world cruise, let's say it's 5 months long. They might have segments that range anywhere from 14 to put a couple together into 2 months.
Okay.
You can kind of divide most world cruises up into smaller voyages.
Yeah.
And so for
Fun.
people who are kind of thinking about that, that can be a nice way to get the experience. Also, interesting thing about world cruises is a lot of people have friends and family who will actually fly and join them for just a segment.
Oh, how fun.
So, maybe grandma and grandpa are doing the whole cruise and the whole family flies to
Yeah.
Hawaii and spends 2 weeks on the ship, gets off in Sydney and flies home.
Oh my gosh.
So very, very, kind of mix and match when it comes to those segments. And those
Yeah.
segments as standalone cruises are often incredible because, if you look through cruise itineraries, you'll see the little asterisks for new port or, first voyage call or something like that.
Sure.
And almost always it's world cruises where you see those really interesting places. And, some places they might only get 1, 2, 3 cruise ships a year,
Wow.
and you're going to be it.
Yeah.
So you can see some really cool places. There are actually world cruises that will do Antarctic cruises along the way. I talked a little bit about that.
Huh.
So really, any place there's water,
Wow.
chances are there is a world cruise that's going to go there.
That is amazing. Is there a sweet spot for folks? Is it like typically you're seeing folks that are retired maybe in their early 60s, or I
would
mean,
say,
how active do we need to be? Like, tell me more about.
It's up to you. I mean, there will be some people who are there and they probably don't get off the ship.
Oh,
there is a small segment of people who are quite elderly,
yeah,
who essentially are kind of living on a cruise ship,
yeah,
almost.
Yeah.
But most people are typical passengers for that particular cruise brand.
Okay.
Maybe a little older, definitely retired.
Yeah.
I'd say the average age is retired, but there's young, active, retired. There's
Sure.
50 and retired.
Yep.
Maybe they own a small business or something like that,
Love
or they're
that,
transitioning it to the family or something like that, and then all the way up to some quite elderly people. But I would say that generally speaking, because those segments can cause a little bit of churn in there too, it's a very good mix of passengers.
That's crazy. And I feel like you told me this one time before. Do these sell out quickly, or am I just making that up?
Sometimes they can.
Yeah.
It goes in waves.
Okay.
A little bit. But oftentimes, if segments are going to be offered on that cruise, the cruise line may restrict the number of people who can do the full world cruise.
Oh,
so maybe only 50% of the capacity is reserved for the full world cruise. But sometimes if that fills up, the cruise line is going to say, well, maybe we'd rather sell one more cabin to somebody who wants to do the whole thing than try to sell 6 different segments. So sometimes there is some flexibility, but many of the world cruises do sell out very, very quickly. And in particular, the best staterooms go right away.
The usual.
And especially, suites, because this is a long cruise.
Right.
And, probably taking the smallest stateroom on the ship isn't the recipe to happiness on a 6-month
Not for
voyage.
me.
So, if there's one cruise to upgrade to a, maybe a mini suite or a junior suite or even a suite, it would be this, because just really having that space. Now, we aren't going to spend a lot of time talking about the logistics, but, people can have their luggage shipped to and from the ship. So, they can change out their wardrobes mid-cruise.
Wow.
We and the cruise lines help with visas and things like that. Oftentimes there are additional perks offered on world cruises. So, for example, some cruise lines that don't normally include laundry will provide a credit to be used for laundry service and things like that. So there are a lot of differences from a world cruise, maybe from the standard inclusions of a particular cruise brand.
Yeah.
Just to make it easier, because it is there's a big logistical piece to it. Now, another thing that's interesting is that many cruise lines have specific crew members who are their world cruise go-to guys and gals.
Really?
Dining room waiters, room stewards, bartenders, cruise directors. They have been tested, over the years working for the company. These are the most senior, the best, the most talented staff.
Interesting.
And oftentimes they are assigned to work on world cruises.
Huh.
And, you get to know these people. You may have the same waiter for year after year after year. I mean, it's kind of something to look forward to.
Right.
So they really up their game, from their normally high standards, they really up their game on the world cruises.
I can't imagine.
As well.
How fun.
Yeah.
Is there a certain couple cruise lines that do world cruises, or does everybody
Well, it's very
do
interesting.
it?
Actually, many cruise lines do. Not the mass market type cruise lines.
Okay.
I think Royal Caribbean has tried, but it hasn't been a real resounding success. But Princess, Holland America, and then as you go into the luxury space, Viking and Regent and Oceania and Silversea and Seabourn. The smaller ship cruise lines tend to be really the world cruise experts.
Okay.
Cunard, they were the pioneer, so they're really probably the one big ship luxury world cruise brand, and they have 4 ships, and each of them does 4 different sort of world cruise itineraries between January and mid-April.
Okay.
So they're going to have kind of the shortest of the world cruises. And then, for example, Regent's World Cruise starts in January, and it doesn't end until June. So it's almost 6 months of cruising. So there's a very, very, very wide variety, very, very wide variety of itineraries, very, very wide variety of experiences out there.
Yeah.
And, I think it's something that as people start to maybe move from skeptical to curious, that's a really good time to start having a conversation with a travel advisor, because, we're talking 2, 3, 4 years out into the future, and some of them will sell out.
Wow,
So for
that's
some
how
of them,
far
we
out.
absolutely want to have you on the wait list before the cruise even opens up. And that's something we can do for our clients.
Okay.
So that they get that cabin that they want, that stateroom that they want. But it's a long lead time kind of for the first one.
Yeah.
And so, you got to think it through. What are you going to do with, do you have pets? What are you going to do with pets?
Right.
You got to kind of clear your calendar too. So you got to talk to the kids and the grandkids. Okay, kids and grandkids, we're going to be going, and it's different than going to Florida, because you can't just pop home for the weekend, but it's kind of like going to Florida. You're going down there for 3-4 months. Everything up here kind of gets put on hold. So people are sort of used to it from that perspective now, maybe versus 10 or 15 years ago. But there's a lot of thinking that we want to do together to make sure we're all set to go. And when it's time to book, we're ready to book, because we do want to book right away when they come out, if at all possible.
And you're saying your booking window is like a 2, 3, 4 year, like.
So the 2028 World Cruises are becoming available now. So we're recording this in the fall of 2025.
Got it.
So they're coming out right now.
Wow.
And so there will be another. They usually come out in May, June, July. So the 2028 ones are out now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So as always, you're getting me super excited about this, and I am not retired yet, and so that's putting a wrinkle into things for me right now. I'm trying to figure this out. I love how it hits all the highlights. And the way that you frame this on the front side of this podcast, it really resonates with me. Like, you know what? There's a lot of things.
You see the Sydney Opera House, the Taj Mahal. I mean, in the same trip, and going on an African safari. I mean, that's pretty neat.
Yeah. Well, and what resonated with me, Ted, was that you're only on this planet for so long, and if you can do it, this is something that seems like just almost a no-brainer. Like, gosh, you could just check off all these bucket items. Like, we can do this, and it's amazing. Wow, what an opportunity.
Yeah, I think when you think about it from that perspective, because we always postpone things.
Yeah,
right? That's just a natural part of human life.
Yep.
And eventually we run out of time and can't postpone things anymore, and that list is undone.
That's right.
And so I really think if you enjoy travel, if you like to see the world, you want to see the world, you want a variety. I mean, everything from the Panama Canal to the Taj Mahal to the, Rio de Janeiro. I mean, the first segment of the World Cruise I took was from Miami to Rio de Janeiro.
Wow.
So we saw, a couple Caribbean islands, Devil's Island Prison, the French penal colony off the coast of Guyana.
Yeah.
We went up the Amazon. We got to see where Brigitte Bardot spent her retirement in Brazil. Got to see Rio de Janeiro. I mean, we saw a lot, and that was only 17 days.
Gosh.
And so, if we'd kept going on the cruise, we would have just seen so much more.
Amazing.
And so, yeah, it is, I think, something that if you enjoy cruising, and if you are a very curious person who wants to see the world, do it, and maybe do it when you're a little younger than you think.
I was going to say,
if you're in your 60s or your 70s, when you're still spry and stuff like that, and you can enjoy things, go out on excursions, do things, it's probably better than waiting till you're 90 years old and so frail that you almost can't get off the ship.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
My recommendation is to think about doing it a little before you think you really want to do it.
Yeah, I love that. Well, tell us how to get a hold of you and your team. What's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, so you can visit our website, tedblanktravel.com. Contact us. There's a great form you can fill out to schedule a free consultation with one of our cruise experts. And you can also subscribe to our weekly cruise newsletter, TED Talks Cruises, on that website. Or you can just give us a call at area code 651-964-8245.
And then the usual like and subscribe below. We are on weekly on the podcast and then also on YouTube. Appreciate everybody tuning in and appreciate you, Mr. Ted Blank, our travel expert. Thank you. Again, TED Talks Cruises. I'm Ken Conan, the rookie. We'll see you next time.